Waking up slowly, he realized that he was in the midst of a formal board meeting. He was profusely apologetic and he told his chairman, "I have a personal blow. My father has expired." His father was living in Lalgudi. Then immediately Arjuna undertakes his journey from London to Lalgudi. The journey of enlightenment begins. Arjun's father, Krish sir, was a school teacher. He was a principled school teacher. He was an embodiment of discipline, simplicity and philosophical outlook. Arjun's responsibilities deprived him of constant communication with his father. There were only occasional courtesy calls with his father. Arjun reached Lalgudi. The funeral pyre was lit and he was unconsolable. Arjun was devastated. He was feeling the absence of his father at this critical point of time. He went home. He did not talk to anyone. He went to bed. Suddenly, in the middle of the night, there was a voice which woke him up. He realized it was his father's voice. His father, Krish sir, told him that he will visit him for the next 10 days. His soul will visit him for the next 10 days. And he will clear the clutter in his mind. 10 nights, 10 questions. That's all Arjuna has to get the answers for the most daunting questions that bothered him. The story continues. Each day an event occurs. An event in his father's life was recalled by the associates of his father. This event triggers a question in the mind of Arjun. Then Arjun goes upstairs to his father that night and tries to get answers from him. The arguments between the rebellious son and the persuasive father makes it more interesting. These questions we go through in our minds every day. Let me take you to the day one. What are values? Arjun starts the discussion. Dad, I have taken victory as the goal of my corporation which pays my salary. The practice of values many times prevent me from maximizing the value for the corporation. What are values, Dad? Then heated exchanges take place on Vedas, ancient scriptures, various religious scriptures, and the thoughts of the great leaders, literature pundits, and the great philosophers. At the end of it, they try to find an answer on what are values. Finally, it boils down to the key word, conscience. If the system violates intelligence, it is bad. If it injures the character, it is vicious. If it injures the conscience, it is criminal. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens. The voice of the conscience is so delicate that it is easy to stimulate, but it is so clear that it is impossible to mistake it. So the bottom line, therefore, the voice says, be a master of your will and a slave of your conscience. Courage, conviction, conscience. These are the key terms that emerged during the discussion. Few stories emerged during the discussion on conviction and upholding of conscience. Some of the stories for you here now. The voice continues with the story. Manjunath, an IIM management graduate, an officer in the Indian Oil Corporation, Satyendra Dubey, an IIT product, an officer in Highways Corporation of India, were killed while showing extraordinary ethical commitments on the job. Now here is another story about George Coutu. George Coutu was a marketing executive in one of the largest MNCs in US. One day he attended there was a business ethics and leadership conference at the headquarters. He attended that along with other executives. It was declared over there that the employees should not only obey the letter but also the spirit of the law as well. George Coutu, among other employees, knew of a technical violation by which the company was getting more money under some medical aid program. He brought this out in the seminar. He was brushed aside. Then he wrote to the board. Again, he was brushed aside. In the year 2000, he resigned from the company and he filed a suit against the company. The case was going on. In August 2002, George Coutu was diagnosed to suffer from a terminal illness, pancreatic cancer. He said that what I know should not die with me. He insisted that his witness should be recorded on a videotape and he expressed this as his last deathbed wish. In August 2002, there was a grilling, cross-examination by the opponent lawyer of the MNC, and his testimony was videotaped. And in November 2002, George Coutu died. But the videotape made all the difference. Even though George Coutu died, the tape played before the jury, it served as the evidence. The company pleaded guilty. Now, this is the stuff the whistleblowers are made of, extraordinary ethical commitments. These people are to be emulated as role models. We salute you, George Coutu, wherever you are. May your soul rest in peace, the voice said. Finally, on that day, the voice asked 4 more grilling questions on Arjun as a parting shot. He asked, Arjun, are you made of glass or steel? Will you shatter or forge your character with courage and conviction? Are you a rock or pebble? Will you hold or roll? With this, the voice vanishes for day 1. Then more days, more questions, more answers. So let me narrate you only the highlights of some of the days given the time slot for me. Let me move on to the day 5. Can character and competence coexist? In Mahabharata, the great Guru Dronacharya taught the skills of archery to both the Kauravas and Pandavas. But he taught the Brahmastra, its modern equivalent today, you can call it as intercontinental ballistic missile. The Brahmastra was taught only to Arjun and not even to his son Ashwatthama, who was also equally competent. When he was queried, Guru Dronacharya said, it is not enough if someone knows how to use it, but it is also necessary that he should know when and why should he use it. Arjuna has got both the character and competence, therefore I prefer to teach him, he said. Now our hero Arjuna starts his rebellious move, that the world rewards competence and does not applaud character. Then Krishna tried to lay down the foundation of character-driven competence. But Arjuna does not leave him. He asked, Dad, there are so many unsung heroes who diligently work day in and day out, but they do not get noticed. To make a distinctive dent, we need to show off our competence, Dad. No one applauds the character, Dad, he said. Then the voice of Krishna turned serious. He gave 2 powerful real-time stories, real stories, which will shape anyone, anytime, anywhere. Here is the story for you. On 3rd December 1984, Bhopal faced its worst tragedy. The leakage of the poisonous gas killed thousands of people. Immediately, when the news was broke out, the top brass of the power block immediately fled the scene. But not Duru, the station master of the Bhopal railway station. He saw the people dying down. His pointsman was dead. Now he had to alert the trains that are to pass through Bhopal railway station. Either he should stop them, or he should tell them at least to close the windows when they pass through, or he should ask them to divert Bhopal. He did not leave the scene like the power block. Full night, he operated as a pointsman. He sent message after message, saving thousands of people. Now, the next day morning, when the room was opened, Dhruv, the station master, was found dead, holding his hand holding the signal instrument. Whose competence is nobler, Arjun? Dhruv's or the power block, who ran away immediately when the news broke out? The people may know the power guys, but not Dhruv. But he is an unsung hero, an inspiration of character-driven competence, the voice said. Krishna continued, I do not care for the historic figures, but I shed my blood for the people who show extraordinary character and deliver competence unmindful of their life and taking risks. Yet another instance for you. Taj, Mumbai, 26/11/2008. The apprentices saved many hostages, unmindful of the risks that they are taking. They did not do it for reward or recognition, because they were not even confirmed employees in the hotel. Ratan Tata made a public statement that how can I repay such a pure dedication, he cried in front of the television channels. Now they did not do it for the sake of promotion or reward, They did it to protect the guests, an embodiment of perfect hospitality, the profession that they have undertaken. Chris sir was getting emotional at that point of time. Then they went on arguing about the coexistence of character and competence at so many instances. And at the end of the day, they came out with a statement: character without competence is an empty paradise. Competence without character is a crook's paradise. Character with competence alone is a real paradise. Now the vibrations of the voice of Chris sir was still ringing in the ears of Arjun long after his father left. Moving on to day 6. This was a long day. There was not one question, there were 4 questions. Greed or need, selfishness or sacrifice, cutthroatness is equal to smartness, conviction or compromise. Let me give you some of the highlights. Greed or need. The creator's need, the positive greed or fine, but not the excessive executive greed that is a potential recipe for disaster, said the voice. Today, the greedy behavior of the corporate leaders strengthened the public conviction that the free markets are the tools to make the richer to grow richer and richer at the cost of the general public. John F. Kennedy says, if a society cannot help the many who are poor, it cannot save the few who are rich. Now no wonder today you are hearing about the Occupy Wall Street movements. It faces the loudest, intensive, socialistic noises at the very root of the capitalism. Turning on his attention to the executive remuneration, the voice added, in the 1980s, Peter Drucker said that the ratio of the CEO to the average executive was around 40 to 1. Today, it is hovering around 400 times to 1. Does that mean the CEO is 400 times smarter than the average executive? Now, earlier the salary gap was determined by the intellectual gap or the responsibility gap. But unfortunately today the salary gap is determined by the so-called result gap. The result gap driven remuneration has created a new theme: create numbers at any cost. Now moving on to the next question, selfishness or sacrifice, the voice asked, what was the point of sending the people at the lower levels or burdening the taxpayer when the most of the faults are lying with the top brass? The top brass of the large automotive companies in US, they flew in their private jets to present their own revival plans. This is not sacrifice, Arjun, the voice said. Look at this story. A CEO of a large bank in UK, who was the architect of the failure of the bank, he retired at a very young age of 50 with a whopping pension of 600 pounds per annum, 50,000 pounds per month, while 20,000 employees of the bank lost their jobs. And when he was asked, he said that my pension is governed by the legal right, and he refused to pay back even one single pound as a voluntary surrender for the revival of the bank. This is not sacrifice, he said. When something cannot be cured, it has to be endured, the voice thundered. Moving on to the day 9. The day 9 was a motivation session for Arjun because he was so low, because he lost all his past glories. So this day, it addressed these issues: success management, happiness management, failure handling, and miseries handling. As usual, it was a long session, but it provoked the power of positive thinking on our hero Arjun. Now I'll give you some of the glimpses of this. On success, the voice says, success is a lousy teacher. It seduces the smart people to think that they can never lose. Let me repeat. Success is a lousy teacher. It seduces the smart people to think that they can never lose. Therefore, you have to be careful when you are successful.